Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk all things movies. Joining me, as always, is the other Real to Real Talker, Paul Britton. Paul Britton, we're live on Twitch, and we are back.
We are excellent. I'm glad that it's working.
Yeah. We are indeed back. And what a week it's been. What 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Been.
Yeah,
I've been.
Before we even get into it, so we're doing 6 reviews today, and there's 6 reviews of movies that have come out in the past 2 weeks. You know, just not burying the lead or anything here. So Hollywood, do better. Okay, there's absolutely no reason why 6 completely watchable, release-worthy movies need to come out in a 2-week span. There's no reason for this.
Well, and many of them in less than that. I mean, it's the Thanksgiving weekend brought quite a few things, and we're just gonna have to get through them.
And meanwhile, end of August and beginning of September, we're like, well, there's nothing coming out this week, so what are we gonna do?
It was an arid desert. But yeah, no, there's quite a few things we're going to be talking about tonight as we get through a few reviews that we want to share with you, movies that recently came out, plus our normal segments that we do week to week. And Paul, as I think about my movie going experience over this past weekend, before my health took a nosedive this week, there still is, again, I'm giving up on not having theaters entirely to myself when I go to the movies. So it's just, hey, I should be thankful, right?
Yeah. Hooray, movies.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we even jump into what we're going to talk about this week, I have to ask you, because I can't wait till the end. Are we going to talk about Violent Night?
Yeah, we already talked about we already talked about what we were going to do for the Violent.
Did we?
Like when the trailer first came out, we literally had a conversation about we're going to do this movie and we're going to each pick list our favorite on-screen Santas.
That's right. You did say that. You did say that.
And
hey, my brain, dude.
And my only question was going to be, is it okay if we do like television Santas too and not just movies? Because I think specials, I think when you're talking about Christmas movies, like Christmas specials really need to be included as well.
So brain fog and illness being what it is, here we are. So thanks for reminding me. So because I keep seeing the trailer, and I was reading an article and seeing an interview, and they're very well they're doing a great job of not taking themselves too seriously, the people behind the film.
So. Side note, it's literally the only thing coming out this weekend that I have any interest in watching. Yeah. And yet, I still had to go out to a theater 5 times in an 8-day period in order to see all this stuff that we needed to see. Good job, Hollywood. Keep on trucking and wondering why you only draw $20 million worth of people every weekend.
Oh my goodness.
Idiots.
I tell you.
Sorry.
And well, hey, there's no time to waste. So I say we just jump right in, because the however long ago it was, because it's been 2 weeks since we did a show and extra. Yeah. We saw Steven Spielberg release his latest, The Fabelmans. Yeah. I wanted to lead off with this one, Paul, because I think of all the ones that we'll talk about, this one is the one that is definitely carrying that Oscar buzz, as Spielberg often does.
Sure.
The thing about this film, and I'm echoing a ton of other folks when I say that this, of course, was a love letter from Spielberg to himself and his life, and I mean that in a good way. This is a film that it's part of a trend we saw this year of autobiographical films that are very personal projects for the directors involved. And so tell me, if you would, Paul, from the outset, when you knew this film was coming out, tell me what you were looking forward to, and as you dive into your thoughts about the film, do you feel it delivered?
Well, it's interesting that you even asked that, because I didn't know what to expect, so I didn't know if I should look forward to it. And part of that is because I feel like Spielberg does not really get super personal in his interviews. Like his films are pretty personal as they are. I mean, we know if you track his movies at all, he definitely came from a home, a home. He was a child of divorce. You know,
right.
that's obvious with any movie that you watch of his.
Sure.
You know, if it's more strange to watch a Spielberg movie and have the two parents not divorced than to have them be divorced. Like it's like,
good point.
Wait, these people, like, I'm surprised he didn't just throw in a divorce into Lincoln just to kind of be like, yeah, we're gonna just do this.
But there was conflict.
Yeah, there was conflict, sure, but you know, okay, so
yeah.
He's clearly a child of divorce, but beyond that, and we also, okay, so we knew he's a child of divorce. We knew that he started out in Hollywood super young, and we know that he loved movies as a kid,
right?
And that's it. But you know, none of that is like revolutionary, and none of that, honestly, is interesting enough to make a movie about,
right?
So it really becomes, all right, so what's this movie going to be about? And it turns out it's just a bunch of stories about a family who happened to get divorced, and that's all it is. And you know, so there you go. I mean, that you know, that
moving around along.
Yeah, it's really hard, you know. So to answer the question, what was I looking forward to? I didn't know what I was looking forward to.
Okay,
you know,
that's fair.
And I just knew, okay, well, it's going to be Spielberg, so. You know, at the very least, I feel like we're going to get a pretty interesting story because Spielberg tells a really good story usually.
Yeah.
And
For myself, you know, being a big fan of his films and having read in advance, you know, that this was his look back on his life. The thing so I was kind of watching it through that lens, thinking, you know, wow, this is, you know, it made me realize how much about Spielberg I didn't know. Right. I mean, I know his filmography, I know the work that he's known for and so forth, but you know, this is a very deep look into his childhood and the experiences that formed who he was and how he came to, you know, he's basically telling the story of his life, and he's delving deep into things that really show a vulnerability on his part as a director to be willing to tell this story. And to your point a moment ago, it's an understatement to say he's a phenomenal storyteller, but it's one of the few times when I'm looking at what is basically a biopic, and I don't think to myself that it's self-serving. You know, it was very honest, it was very genuine. And I mean, we don't even, how much time do we really need to spend on the acting in this film? The
acting was really good.
It was amazing.
I do have one complaint. And
okay.
My complaint, and it's unfortunately it's a pretty big complaint. And
okay.
The reality is, he spends so much of this movie letting us know that these are just stories.
You're right.
And whether or not they actually happened is entirely up to the viewer to decide.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he gives so many indications that this is, you know, this didn't actually happen, but something vaguely like it might have happened at one point. And so here you go. And this, I mean, he has his uncle come in. Judd Hirsch comes in specifically just to get a Best Supporting Actor nomination. And sets the screen on fire and is you know, literally, like, they're at the dinner table and he starts talking about something that happened to him while he was working at the circus, and then one of the little kids says, did this really happen? And then one of the adults, one of the parents, you know, I think it was Paul Dano, Paul Dano says to the kid, no, this didn't just happen. And then Judd Hirsch says, it's a story. You know, and it's like, and boom. And so that encapsulates the entire movie. And so you really are left wondering which of these stories actually did happen. And if they did happen, to what extent did they happen? And then you get to the final scene and you don't care, because the final 5 minutes of this movie is liquid cinema gold. And so,
well, and I see what you're saying. And I don't know that I can tell you for sure I didn't have the same thoughts you did in relation to, is it really, you know, is it you're not going to get a true retelling of his life in a fictional story that's based on his life. But I don't know. There were parts of it that for me were like, okay, well, if this was his life and if that's what he's drawing from, you really begin to see and understand a little more how his whole love of film was born and formed. And
for sure,
you know, and there's some stuff that's, of course, I'm sure, you know, the whole train sequence and what that led to, and there's just so many charming moments that and right when you think it's going to be totally idyllic, things go south, and you're like, oh man, okay, this wasn't going to last without becoming some sort of drama, right? And so, but again, it's he tells a compelling story, and
here's the problem that I have with what I was just talking about is that because you don't know what's real, in the end, I don't think he tells a complete story here. I think what he tells, what he presents, are vignettes about a family that he Lego pieces together into a story, and so it almost and it just, I just wanted to know if it was real or not. That's it. It's a look. It's a really good movie. I don't want anybody to think I didn't like it, but I did leave the theater like,
it left you lacking.
Not lacking, just wishing I knew what was real.
Gotcha.
That's literally it. I want to know what was real so that I know what the actual story was.
Okay.
Because if the story is literally just a kid gets to love movies and while his parents get divorced, I don't know. It's you know,
that's so funny how we saw it through really different lenses.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, well, you know, many people are talking about how this is Spielberg's masterpiece. I think there's better work that he's done.
I would disagree with that.
Yeah,
entirely.
It's not. But it's a good film. I mean, it's you know, it's not going to be something that won't be awarded.
This is going to register though with the older voters of the Academy 100%. And if the Academy hadn't, you know, 2 or 3 years ago expanded their voter base exponentially, this would be a shoe-in. I don't think it's a shoe-in. It'll get a nomination for sure. But it's not kind of, I don't think it was strong enough to be considered the favorite, let alone a shoe-in at this point.
No, absolutely. No, I would agree. I'm trying to recall. Spielberg finally won the Oscar for which film? What was?
Well, Schindler's List.
That's right, Schindler's List. Okay, yeah. And so I'm looking at. That's what I was sort of thinking about. Okay, I can't see him holding an Oscar after this one, but I can certainly say that, you know, it's a unique story amongst all of the various things that he's told, and it's probably the most relatable. You know, in terms of watching someone's, you know, life play out, and you can find pieces of, you're like, yeah, that's why I'm passionate about this thing, and I can see how that formed me and so forth. But
I never had people beat me up, so I mean, I had people pick on me.
I got picked on tremendously. I got picked on tremendously,
for sure.
Yeah,
but it never got physical, and
and that's where I think the embellishments of the story can be.
And I don't want that. Like, why can't he? You know, like I think I think the difference between somebody getting picked on and somebody getting the shit kicked out of them is really important.
Sure.
And if that's going to be a really major emotional climax in your movie, I don't want to be sitting here feeling like, I don't really feel like this actually happened.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, you know,
he's just making this up. No, I get it. Well, when it comes to this film and the movies that we'll be looking at the rest of this episode, we have a 5 taco rating system here on Reel to Reel Taco Movie. You can get as many as 5 tacos. If you want to throw some extra guac on it for some extra love, you can do so. Paul, for the Fabelmans, Steven Spielberg's latest, how many tacos are you going to give this film?
I've been going back and forth on this one. I'm going to do 3 plus guac. I feel like, why is it not showing? Whatever. It won't show, but I'm doing 3 plus. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm doing 3 plus guac. Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, it was either going to be 4 or 3 plus guac. In the end, I'm going 3 plus guac just because, honestly, like, I've seen other movies this year that I liked more that I gave 4 tacos to. So this is just where it is. It's 3 plus guac.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I was looking at it from a different lens, which is why I'm going to give 4 tacos to this film. I think, like you said, it's going to be in the running. or it'll be dominated. Whether
it'll be in the running. It'll be in the running.
Yeah.
I just can't fathom a scenario where this wins over Tar. Because, I mean, geez Louise, I can't. If you're and you put in the Fabelmans and then you pull the Fabelmans out and then put in Tar, and you don't think, oh well, Tar is just a vastly superior movie.
No, it is.
I don't know what to tell you.
No, I agree.
What to tell you.
When we see the final lineup, I think we're going to figure out where this movie will land in the whole scheme of things. So, absolutely. All right. Well, moving on to our next film, we're going to take a look at a very important film called She Said. This film, Paul, was both a difficult watch, but also one in which you came out feeling like sometimes the people on the side of good win. This was a very, very electrifying film based on the events surrounding the women who were sexually harassed and assaulted by Harvey Weinstein. And from all of that and from what was done by the New York Times reporters that are portrayed in this film, the Me Too movement sprang out of it. Paul, you know me, I love films of this type because they chronicle. It's not just the talking nature of it; it's the the chronicling of a newsroom that's putting together a story. We've seen this before.
Journalism movies are just back for you and me. It's
yeah, I love them. I absolutely love them. And this one lies right there at the top, near the top of the list. Paul, this film, its cast is phenomenal. They do a wonderful job of telling this story, and I want to get your thoughts, of course, on the film overall and on its effectiveness as a vehicle to bring this story to many more people than might have even known about it, at least in this kind of detail.
Yeah, it's interesting because this does some things that you don't normally see in these sort of hard-hitting journalism movies. And sometimes in a hard-hitting journalism movie, you'll see like a scene where the journalist is kind of like interacting with their family, and usually it's hi honey, I gotta go, bye. And that's the extent of it. Or in All the President's Men, just doesn't even come up at all, which is a whole other direction to go.
Right.
This one of the key focus in this movie that really brings it heart and emotion is the private lives of Megan Twohey and Jodie Cantor.
Correct.
And not like, oh, how does the Me Too movement affect their family, or even really how does their being at work late and working on this affect their family? It's literally like, just how does just being a journalist affect their family? Like not specific to this, but more in general. And I thought that was really interesting. And I thought that added a personal touch that was really needed for the subject matter. And this movie 100% works on just every level. Yes, it is slow. You could very easily, what did it clock in at? It clocked in at 2 hours, 9 minutes. You could very easily trim 15 minutes off of this thing and have it clock in at under 2 hours and be just as happy. Yeah. But I didn't care. Like it's, because if you care about movies, and if you recognize just how important the events that this movie was chronicling was, and just in setting up where society needs to go forward, not just from a movie standpoint, a studio film standpoint, but just as a general society, it draws you in and it holds on to you.
Yeah. My thought as I watched She Said was I was recalling the movie Spotlight, and how this movie kind of went next level because of what you said. It was not just the journalistic aspect of the film, but also the families and the effect that this had on the lives of the two reporters that are portrayed here in the film. And not only that, but their staff. I mean, there are some supporting actors here in this film that just do a phenomenal job. And one of the things that I know stood out to me just throughout the entire film was the way in which the the it didn't feel like the book adaptation that it is.
Okay.
It felt like a really I don't know how to explain it. It was obviously lifted off the pages of both the book and also real life events, but it was just so powerfully put together because of the way it treated the reporters as more than just reporters. They were humans. They were people that had their own lives that were being affected by what they were reporting on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if saying this is the right way to say it, but they're women, right?
Yeah.
Only they could have told this story with the gravitas that it needed to make the impact that it did.
Yeah.
Did you have any issue with, I was impressed by Ashley Judd playing herself.
I was just going to bring that up.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I've read both sides, and I don't know. I don't know. Think it took away from it.
Why would there be another side? Like, what's the other side? What's the knock there?
Some of what I read was that, well, if you think about the timing of when you go back to her poetry read at the event right after the Trump inauguration. There are some who are saying, is this just her trying to like get another jab in? But it's like, no, you're missing the point. Like, dude, this is her.
Like, yeah, stop. Get
okay, good. I didn't think you'd feel that way, but I was I thought it was a good move from a film standpoint to say, let's just use the person. Let's let them be part of this, and because it was the tipping point of how this story got its much needed corroboration, right? To give the story, the newspaper story, its legs. And so I was curious just to think what you thought with some people being portrayed by certain people being portrayed by actors, and of course some being portrayed by who it was, in this case Ashley Judd.
Yeah, I would say, and actually, I was just scrolling through the credits on IMDb, and in addition to Ashley Judd, Gwyneth Paltrow, you don't ever see her, but she does do her voice. So yeah, and that I love it. Honestly, I think it was important. Like because it's so easy when you're talking about victimhood. Or victims of these horrific incidences, that it's so easy to just forget that there's actually a person there, and it's so easy to lose sight of a life being impacted.
Correct.
And this removes that. Ashley Judd being up on there is like, holy shit, this was Ashley Judd that had to go through this.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not, Jane Doe, and it's not, random person that, accuses some frat boy of something and then never goes to the, the dean's office to report it, or, this is like literally Ashley Judd. And it's just the connection there. It's really important. I think it would have been a lesser film had she not been there. How's that?
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. Yeah. And that was very much my thought, which is why I was curious to get your thought on that, because I think it lends not credibility to the film. That's not that. It lends it's not even lend. It drives the story home in a very pivotal moment in the film, that from that point forward, that to me is sort of where the movie peaks, and then the rest of it is the denouement, obviously.
Yeah.
It was so powerful. Yeah. And it wouldn't have been that's what if it hadn't been her. And so I was just really, really pleased that decision was made. And I think it took a great film and made it it's not, this is a great film, but it's also going to be remembered as a very important film. In the fact that it tells a story that needed to be told, that
for sure.
I think a lot of people, you knew it was going on, but you didn't understand the gravity of it.
Yeah.
As much as this movie will help people to know. So
for sure. Yep.
Very powerful film. Very powerful film. So Paul, in your thoughts, she said, let's go to your rating.
Four Tacos. So, and this is a good example of, I genuinely just thought this was a better movie than The Fabelmans. And that's not a knock on The Fabelmans. It's just, hey, bravo, she said. I really, look, not everybody's going to appreciate this movie as much as I did. And I'm assuming you will. But honestly, if a movie makes me cry, and this movie absolutely made me cry, you're probably just definitely getting Four Tacos, and then like we'll see if we can go up from there. But yeah, Four Tacos.
Yeah, I'm gonna land on the same Four Tacos myself. There is some guac possibly. I've wrestled with that just from the sheer acting of it. I mean, even in the on the peripherals, so to speak, the editors and those, their names escape me right now, but there's just so much great work being done from an acting standpoint. But from the standpoint of what this film sets out to do, it does it so well. And I look forward to seeing what comes out of it come award season. So we'll see what gets talked about. So, all right. So make sure you check out the movie She Said. It is a tough watch, but it's an important watch, and we encourage you to check it out. All right, that moves us then to our next film, the very interesting and very different The Menu.
Yeah.
I was, the foodie in me has been looking forward to this film for quite some time.
Yeah. We got it. We spoke about the trailer for this one.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I have been excited. And when the first trailer came out about a year ago, and I have been flat out excited about this one since then. And I have seen it literally in front of every single movie I've seen since then as well. I mean, this trailer was everywhere. So yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I was very much looking forward to this film, not just because of my love of, all things food and chefs and the fine dining experience. This is a film that you just aren't prepared for. When you walk in, if you've only seen the trailer, you kind of get a sense of what's going on, but it's until you watch it that you realize the full extent. And that is as much its power as it is its flaw. I very much enjoyed this movie. But there was a point in the third act where I think it just sort of all fell apart.
Interesting.
I don't even know how much I want to say about the film because of how much humor and how much was it's I'm just going to say it. It's balls to the wall, over the top.
Sure.
From the outset.
Oddly enough, not the most over the top movie we'll be reviewing today, but it is definitely balls to the wall, over the top.
And therein lies its power. It doesn't blink in the face of its subject matter. And it's, you have to, I think you almost have to, I had a very interesting conversation with my wife after the movie because of some of what occurs in the film, and I don't want to give anything away.
Sure.
But her comment was trigger warning, maybe. But
interesting.
And so there's so much that's portrayed within the body of this film, but the story is one that really the humor moves the story along quite well. The different portrayals. John Leguizamo, he still has gas in the tank.
Yes.
And then reading
Speaking of John Leguizamo, we're going to to see him this weekend
yes,
too.
We will.
I can't wait.
I read an article that he based his character in this film on Steven Seagal.
Yes.
And which is great.
Which I'm sad because I didn't dislike him that much. Like I kind of felt bad for him a little bit.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's like under no scenario would I feel bad for Steven Seagal, no matter what was going on with him. So
sure. Okay. Yeah. Anna Taylor-Joy delivers another phenomenal performance.
She's so good.
Ray Fine, come on, you're not going to get a bad performance from him.
Yeah.
But
Nicholas Hoult is amazing.
He is. He really is. Yeah. The cast makes this film.
Yes.
The storytelling is great. It's I think there's a lot of things that occur within the context of this film that you're like, oh, wow, okay, that was intense. There are some things at the end though that you're like, okay, they're okay. But I will say this, and I'm going to be careful how I word this. There was a very interesting question asked of me about the fate of one of the main characters and why. I almost want to revisit this in another week just to have this conversation. why her fate ends up being what it is. And I think that there lies the crux of the film, but people can miss it. Let's just say a hamburger was very important.
Yeah,
and,
no.
And, I don't want to spoil it.
You always have to go back to your roots. And that if there's one thing we've learned in movie history is that if you can send a character back to their roots, especially in movies about food, I'm looking at you, Anton Ego, you're going to register with that person on a level that transcends what's going on in the movie. And it's really important.
Yeah. And so again, it's so tough sometimes to review these films, Paul, without saying too much. But
I have one thing I want to say.
Please.
Is the
I've talked enough.
best. This movie is the best depiction of a cult. I mean, this movie is about a cult.
That's a good point.
You can throw everything else that's going on during the movie out the window. All that it is an exploration of cultism, and because of what's going on in the United States right now, that's really fucking important.
Sure.
And we might want to understand how people end up aligning themselves with a cult, and how far are people willing to go when they align themselves with a cult, and what are the type of people that are more likely to find themselves in a cult, and I'm fascinated by cults. I didn't know that that's what this movie was going to be about, and so I was kind of surprised. To the point where at the end of the movie I was like, something's missing, and I don't get it. And then one of the people that I went and saw the movie with was like, oh yeah, because it's the cult. And I was like, oh, of course. And then everything else fell into place for me, and I was like, everything else, and now the whole movie makes sense, once I looked at it in that guise. And and I liked that, and I enjoyed it. So
there's so much that goes on, and this is one of the things I think we're seeing in more and more in movies now, is just this sort of messaging about let's make sure that we use this as a vehicle to make our commentary on the events of the day. And every character that is presented to us within this film, we can find something or someone in that we're familiar with, and therein lies some of the strength of this film. I just think that by the time you get to the last half of the third act, it just sort of boom and it's done. And there's a point at which I'd love to circle back to this movie. Let's give folks an opportunity to see it. Maybe when it finally comes to streaming, we can talk one day in more detail about some of the more specific details, because this movie really was entertaining, very enjoyable. And I don't think that many people will give it its due, which is a shame, because it's a really damn good movie.
It really is. I hope people go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to start with the rating this time, and Paul, I don't think you'll be surprised. This movie is going to get a very strong, if I can get my mouse over to it, very strong 4 tacos. For myself. I enjoyed it that much. The reason I don't go 5 is because the plane landed, and then I was like, okay, well, yeah, all right. But I can't tell you how I would improve it, so maybe that's on me. But
I'm also going 4 tacos. It's interesting because I was so excited about this movie, and at the end of it, I still felt like, man, I kind of feel like there were some things that just didn't quite work all the way. But one of the things was not the scene where the dudes are being chased. Like I really, for some reason, I really like and the way they presented all of the menu items was just so
fantastic,
amazing, so amazing. But I agree with what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying about the third act. And I don't know if that was my problem as much as maybe even getting into the first act. Like, I don't know. It starts disjointed. Like, it really starts like, here we are, and but that's 4 tacos, no complaints. I really liked it. It really is fantastic. I'm not sure why I'm not giving it guac, but here we are. There are 4 fantastic tacos, like
absolutely
razor edge almost plus guac.
Fine dining tacos.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Sure. So make sure you check out the menu. I have a feeling that this movie will find a much more massive audience once it hits streaming. So
yeah,
it just really is a good film. All right. That brings us to the much looked forward to Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery.
Only successful movie in the box office last week.
Yeah, and only out in the theaters for a 1 week run.
1 week,
before it releases.
We're super Netflix early on this one, so we're basically probably going to end up talking more about it at the end of December when it hits Netflix. But
yeah, well, and the reason I didn't want to wait, Paul, was because number one, I loved Knives Out, and I was very much looking forward to this film. When it was, when it started its 1 week theater run, I was like, I don't want to wait till December.
Yeah, and you're the one that came to me. Like, you came to me. We're like, hey, look, we're adding Glass Onion. And I was like, I'm down. That's fine.
I don't think it gives anything away to say that for me, this one outdid the first, which is tough to do. It's tough to do, and so all you got to do is look at the cast, and I think that alone will drive people to want to see this film.
Sure.
Your thoughts, Paul?
I don't want to go too into this because again, almost nobody's gotten a chance to see it and is going to have a chance to see it. But it really is fantastic. It really is a fantastic mystery. So I can't get over it. When we get to the ratings, I have one minor complaint, and it's the Ocean's 12 complaint, which is the reason why I don't like Ocean's 12 much as 11 and 13 is because they rely heavily on. Oh no! Oh, Sergio, are you there?
Yeah, you're kind of you're cutting out on me here. I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay. Sorry,
I'm not sure what's
the reason why Ocean's 12 like as much as 11 and 13 is because it relies heavily on the. Let's rewind and show you all the stuff that you missed.
Okay, I get that.
And this movie does that. And so for that reason, I much prefer my mysteries that just keep going and going and going and going, and then just kind of hint at, these are the kind of things that you missed. Whereas ones that rely heavily on, you really have to go back and rewatch the last hour because these are all the things that you missed and you had no idea what was going on.
It's all of Act 2. So
right. Sure, exactly. Yeah. It is all of that too.
I think
it's a minor. That's a me thing and minor.
Yeah.
No,
it didn't. I wouldn't say it bugged me, but it did. It was like, whoa, you're taking us way back. Like, and so, but it does answer some. It more than answers questions. But there was one nagging question that it resolved very quickly for me that I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. But no, I really enjoyed it. I almost wonder if we should wait on ratings. How do you feel? Or should we? Hopefully, our ratings will encourage.
Yeah, we'll rate it. Let's rate it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you start, Paul, and see if we land.
I'm going 4 and guac.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
It would be 5. Honestly, it would. It just truck on. Then when you get to the end, then just give us like little oh, by the way, here are the little things that you missed. I don't need like a half hour of these are all the things that. But 4 plus guac is a really good rating, and it was definitely by far my favorite of all the movies that we saw this weekend. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep the 4 plus guac up there. My wow was like, wow, we landed on the same. That's not always that doesn't always happen. No, this is a very strong film. It's a very strong entry into what I hope will continue to be a series of Knives Out films. So yeah, very much looking forward to it, or very much enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing it again when it comes on Netflix. So, all right, well, that brings us to the conclusion of the main set of movies we're going to talk about today. We'll have a couple more before we are done, but right now we are going to move forward into this week's segments as we get prepared to talk about a little segment we like to call "What the Hell Did I Just Watch?" Paul, I'll turn it over to you for your segment.
All right. So even though this is the 1st of December, we were originally going to do this in November, and November I had a theme for November, and it was movies featuring movies featuring musical stars, really famous musicians, where you have to wonder how being in this movie didn't end their career. And so, you know, we started with the singer from The Who in Listomania, and then we did Adam Ant and Jubilee, and now we have the Bee Gees along with a whole lot of other famous people in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Now, the interesting thing about the theme this month is every movie has been like, this is what happens when people do blah, 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 you know? And so Listomania was, this is what happens when everybody on the set of your movie is doing cocaine. Sgt. Pepper is what happens when people love the Beatles. They sit around and have a conversation with their friends about the Beatles and say, you know what? I bet I could make a movie using only Beatles songs with no dialogue whatsoever, and it would make it still make a coherent movie. And so somebody bet the other person they couldn't do it. And honestly, whoever said they couldn't do it should have been the winner, because this movie makes no fucking sense whatsoever. This movie is just asinine in how little it makes sense. And when I say there's no dialogue, I'm only exaggerating a little bit. George Burns plays the narrator. He does have dialogue. So the only voice you hear that isn't singing throughout the movie is George Burns, and he plays Mr. Kite. And so he's the mayor of Heartland, which is where Sgt. Pepper is from.
Right.
And unfortunately, we get to hear George Burns singing "I'm Fixing a Hole." Now, that's one of the bad things about this movie is that they didn't get famous musicians to play every role. In a few of the roles, they just got random actor people, and they can't sing. They just can't sing. So now you have to suffer through random actor people pretending like they can sing, and they're doing Beatles songs. And what they end up doing more often than actually singing is talking the song.
And
it's really annoying. So the conceit of the movie is that there's Sgt. Pepper, who was and his Lonely Hearts Club Band were a troupe during World War I, stationed in Fleu de Coupe. I swear that's what they're stationed in Fleu de Coupe. Whatever. And he ends the war by taking his band and marching through the war. Like that's how he actively ends the war. Of course, he's American from this small town called Heartland. And then we meet his grandson, Billy Shears. If you are familiar with Beatles songs, you'll recognize Billy Shears. And Billy's Shears is played by Peter Frampton, which is kind of interesting. But all of Peter Frampton's friends are the Bee Gees, and they play the Lonely Hearts Club Band. And so they do a revival of his grandfather's band, and they have to do a concert for the benefit of Mr. Kite, because Mean Mr. Mustard is trying to take over Heartland. I swear to God, this is exactly what's going on in the movie. And it's just, it's just weird. Billy Shears' girlfriend is Strawberry Fields, and they got just an actress to do her songs, and she sings "Here Comes the Sun," and that's such a beautiful song, and not sung by her. And I'm just sitting there like, how did they not get Carole King to just come in and be Strawberry Fields? It's not like she has to act. There's no acting because there's no dialogue. It's everybody pantomiming the whole time. The most interesting part of this movie is definitely when Steve Martin shows up as evil Dr. Maxwell, and he's Bang Bang Maxwell Silverhammer. And it's Steve Martin pre The Jerk. This is basically his first feature film. This is Steve Martin's feature film debut. Is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts. And
probably not according to him.
And he's going around saying, "Bang, bang, Maxwell Silverhammer came down upon your head." And it's like, no, Steve, I love you. Stop. This movie is, Yeah. The best part though is that's the most interesting kind of bonkers part. But then you find out that Aerosmith are the main bad guys, and they're the masterminds behind everything that's going on. And you know,
not a twist I was expecting.
Yeah, so it wasn't a twist I was expecting either. And like that. It was really awesome to have Aerosmith though come in and do come together at the end of the movie, like towards the end of the movie, and as the bad guys. So I don't know why they're singing "Come Together." You know,
yeah,
that's okay. However, I do have to mention. So you've seen I'm assuming you've heard the album Sgt. Pepper's.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you know how at the end of the movie there's a reprise of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band song,
right?
And I swear to God, it's the people that they have in the audience at the end. Basically, ostensibly, these are people who are residents of Heartland, and it's just a crazy list of people who you might have heard of if you grew up in the 70s or early 80s. And it's like, what are they all doing there? And poor Tina Turner is by far the most famous person there. But this is like, you know, before she really got super huge famous. But like, there's the late Lamb Chops is there. Divine is there. Donny Osmond is there. It's like, if you go to the IMDb page and go to the end of like the actors listing, it's crazy. All the people that are showing up during the reprise of the Sgt. Pepper. Wow. It's like, oh my God. Anyway, so there you go.
Find the clip.
Yeah, there you go. Find the clip. Even better. I'm sure you can find the clip.
Yeah, you know, when you told me what it was so that I could find the poster, I remember not ever having seen it, but I remember it was a thing. That's why when I was like, the Bee Gees?
Yeah.
And I was like, I remember that it was a thing, but I know that I never saw it. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And then I realized what segment you were doing it for. And so it couldn't have been good.
Don't make movies that hinge on loosely slapping together songs and using that as your dialogue. Like,
especially not these songs. I mean, let's be honest.
They're not connected in any way, shape, or form. Like, you know, the Who did a rock opera. Great. Tommy. Yes, that'll work.
Very traumatizing.
Randomly collected Beatles songs, you know, from Sgt. Pepper's all the way through to Abbey Road. And taking characters like Mean Mr. Mustard and Maxwell with his silver hammer and Strawberry Fields and you know all these. No, stop! Just don't do this. Like, give me you know, if you want to do a benefit concert with using Beatles songs, then give me just that. Like, I will happily listen to Bee Gees playing and singing Beatles songs. I have no problem with that.
But don't try to create a movie for it.
I don't want George Burns there doing, you know, Here Comes the Sun. Whatever. No, not that. Here Comes the Sun. The song that he did anyway.
Well, I will stand by my argument that there is a musical to be had using Phil Collins music. So we'll talk about that some other time.
But it's called Tarzan. I don't. What are you talking about?
No. No, I'm talking about. I can literally take you. In fact, I'll get some help finding the Facebook post. I put an entire musical together using the songs of Phil Collins.
Is this studio in there? Because if it's not,
absolutely, it's the final. It's the final number. It's the final number. All right. Well, week to week, you can find out what kind of weirdness Paul is watching. Amidst all of the other great movies he sees, he takes the time from his life to watch this stuff and better him than me.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Paul.
This is a movie literally I've wanted to watch forever and ever and ever and ever, and I never had a real reason to do it. So I was happy.
Here you are. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you for your service. So
crazy.
All right.
Fucking crazy.
That brings us to this week's Real Alphabetical. We are all the way to the letter Q, which we found when we put our heads together. There were a few. But we settled on the movie Quills. Quills is the film that we agreed would be the one I'd watch. I'd already seen it, saw it again, and it is as wacky as it was the first time.
Yeah.
This time around, though, I feel like I had a better experience because the first time it was just sort of the sheer car wreck driving by a car wreck kind of thing.
Yeah.
It still
for sure.
like watching a car wreck. But Jeffrey Rush being Jeffrey Rush, it's it's hideous from beginning to end in terms of the subject matter. It's a decent enough film, but
it is captivating. I mean, it's the story of Marquise de Sade.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I was about to get to that. So, but no, yeah, it is a portrayal of the last phase of the life of the Marquis de Sade. There's of course a lot of historical inaccuracies, but a story is told, and you really get to understand the depravity of the mind of a man who that's what he's known for, and we learn why. But there's also some riveting performances by a younger Joaquin Phoenix, and let's see, why can't I think of
Kate Winslet?
Kate Winslet, thank you. Yeah. I had Winslet, I couldn't think of Kate. So it's a strong cast.
Jeffrey Rush is so good.
He's just so, and this was after he won the Oscar. So, I could watch him be in anything. Like this is Jeffrey Rush is just the best. So I mean, good Q movie, better than some of the other Qs that we came up with in terms of whether or not I would have wanted to watch them. Right. But yeah, no, I mean, I have no complaints other than icky feeling throughout, especially the death scene, which I had forgotten about. It was weird. I don't know if you've ever done this where you watch movies years apart and then you're like, oh shit, I forgot that happened.
Wow, that's pretty. It seems unnecessary now.
Right. Well, no, but that's the thing is like, how do you forget something like that? Is my first thought was like, how the hell did I forget that that's what happened? Like what he did to himself. And and again, a lot of literary license being taken, in that entire story. But no, it's one that I don't know if I want to say y'all should watch it. But don't
sit down with your kids on this one.
No.
This is a hard art.
I think this is a strong art. Yeah, oh, absolutely. A strong entry in the alphabetical project that I'm doing.
Sure.
This is the Q movie that it needed to be. And so yeah. There you go. Quills. Great choice. I'm looking forward to R, whatever is next. So absolutely. All right. Well, that brings us to this week's real quick reviews, and we're going to start with one that Paul's going to talk about because I didn't get a chance to watch it. Tell us about Strange World.
All right. So Strange World, it's interesting. So if you follow Disney movies, if you follow this podcast, you know that I do. Disney animated movies typically fall in one of sort of two super broad categories. You either have the heavy musical, frequently princess, though it doesn't necessarily have to be, but the heavily musically driven movie. And then you have the alternative, which is stuff that you would see like Treasure Planet, or Atlantis, which is just like an adventure, and this falls into that one. And the interesting thing about the adventure movies is that there are people that love them, but they are very rarely super successful. And here we are, Strange World. It's a really good movie. The conceit of it, when you get to the end, the payoff is really, really fascinating and interesting what they did with it. And I mean that like on so many different levels. I would want to spoil the ending just to have a conversation of how kind of freaking cool the entire conceit of the movie was. And horrible, conservative people being upset because a family movie features a teen who happens to be gay, aside, that controversy aside. I hope that people take their families to it because it's a really good movie. Now, if you have seen Atlantis and if you've seen Treasure Planet and some of the more adventure driven Disney animated movies, and those aren't your cup of tea, then I'm going to assume that this one probably not going to float your boat either. But if you did like those, you will like this, I promise. It does justice to all those which have blazed the trail before it. It's fun. It's great. I recommend it for sure.
Yeah, I need to catch it at some point. I just ran out of time.
Sure.
And so I've heard a lot of great things, and now hearing your review, which I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need to make sure I get to it. Absolutely. So, rating, Paul, for Strange World, in your opinion?
Yeah, 4. And
Awesome.
it is a very standard 4 tacos. There's nothing superlative about the tacos, but really good 4 tacos. I liked it.
Hearty, tasty, and the kind
delicious.
You remember.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Well, the last movie we're going to talk about, I'm almost, oh my God. The movie Spirited on Apple TV, Apple TV Plus, that Apple channel. Paul, what the hell, man?
I fucking loved this movie.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I fucking love this movie.
Oh.
I cannot tell you.
Man.
So first and foremost, right off the bat, I am a fool for the Christmas Carol story. All right.
Okay.
Like just anything Christmas Carol, I'm in. Like my favorite Christmas movie is the George C. Scott version of the Christmas Carol.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and now you're giving me 2 of my favorite comedic actors and they make a fucking musical? Are you fucking kidding me? Just why is this a musical? Don't answer that. I don't care. I love you.
I have to give props to both Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell because damn, those were some dance numbers.
Yeah.
And damn, they can sing.
Yeah.
This is a spectacle of a movie.
Yes.
That is so, in my opinion, so ridiculously dumb. It was painful to watch, but I will be fair and I will say this, that again, on looking back, while I won't revisit it again every Christmas the way I do Elf and others.
Oh, come on. There's a callback to Elf in the middle of this movie.
I understand that. And that's the thing is it was just so many moments where I'm like, oh, brother, just get on with it. There's a point in this whole thing where I have to be honest and say, listen, all my opinions aside, the spectacle of it, it was just so highly produced. And just, you know, I can't deny it was some fun stuff going on. And, you know, when you can get a Ryan Reynolds to commit to something like this
movie does not work with any 2 other actors.
I agree. And
they both just absolutely go for it. They
so
just
cringy.
are like, we're going for this. We're committing all the way, 100%. We love this. We hope you enjoy, and we're going to bring you along on it.
Yeah.
And I was there. I loved it.
I get it.
I love this movie way more than I should have.
Yeah, it was silly. But hey, you know what? I'm going to be fair. And if I look at the overall production, I'm going to give this, I have to go. I can't go more than 3, but I will go 3. And I will give guac for the effort.
Oh, wow. That's unexpected guac. You didn't have to do I hope you're not doing that just because I loved it.
No. It's sincerely because and I've done this several times. I can't fault the movie and its production for why I didn't like it. I just personally was like, I didn't think more than half of it was funny. So, but yeah, but I have to be fair from a film standpoint that yes, this was a very well produced event. It had some moments, but they just weren't enough for me. But you know, hey, that's me.
I overly love this movie. It's
wow.
Plus guac. I cannot tell you how happy this movie made me.
Okay.
So you know, if you do not like Ryan Reynolds, for God's sake, don't watch this movie. Like, do not watch this movie because you're going to be mad at me. You're going to be mad at yourself. You're going to be mad at Ryan Reynolds, and I don't want you to be any more mad at Ryan Reynolds than you already are. But
can I go ahead? I'm sorry.
If you like Ryan Reynolds and anything he's ever done, and
I'm sure
aren't annoyed by him, for the love of fucking God, go watch this movie because it's perfect. Go ahead.
I have to tell you that the part that angered me the most in this entire film was the way it ended. I was like, after all that, this is what happens, and I'm like, they had to get there somehow, I guess. It was just so bothersome. But you know, hey,
I couldn't believe they did that, and then I was like, "That's genius." I was like, "That's genius." That's amazing.
They do.
I don't know that I would have given it guac if they didn't end it that way.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you decide for yourself. You can find Spirit on Apple TV Plus. all of the films that we've talked about today. Remember, we always say, don't let us be the reason you decide to watch or not watch. Check it out for yourselves. Make sure you get out there.
Actually,
and, you know,
I do want to be the reason why you watch, but I do not want to be the reason why you don't watch. So the interesting thing is every single movie we reviewed this week, I would say absolutely go watch.
Yeah,
including Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. But that's for whole other reasons.
Oh, I was gonna say I might have to put that one off a little further. But yeah, all right. Well, as always, Paul, it's always fun having these conversations. Awesome. Next week we're going to talk about Santas.
Yes,
movie Santas.
Yes.
So if that doesn't bring,
and that literally might be the entire episode because there's literally nothing else coming out. So actually, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, we'll see what else we got.
Absolutely. Well, make sure you swing on by and catch us live on Twitch, and you'll be able to see us on YouTube shortly after. Mm-hmm. Don't forget on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe. Also, make sure you click that notification bell. Excuse me. So you know when our episodes post. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us here on Twitch, as we will be here week to week to continue our movie watching journey. Paul, thank you so much. It's always a blast.
For sure.
Looking forward to next week already. And to all of you out there, remember, we love you, and we always say you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We will see you next time on Real to Real Talk. Good night, everybody.